Welcome to Keeping It Real, a podcast to inform our Dallas residents about the City of Dallas services, events, and initiatives. In today's episode, we want to have a conversation and understanding about the new Division of Inspector General and Ethics Hub initiatives in the City of Dallas. We want to understand who is doing this work, as well as how is it being done and what is their motivation. And now I'd like to introduce my guest today. First up is Bart Beavers, the Assistant City Attorney, Baron Eliason, Assistant City Attorney, and Tran, Ethics Officer. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, TC.
Thank you.
Definitely. Well, Bart and let's start this out. Well, tell us a little bit about the Inspector General Division and the Ethics Hub and what the City of Dallas employees and residents can expect to see in the coming years.
Thank you for the question, TC. The Ethics Hub is a vision by you, TC, and Assistant City Manager Liz Cedillo Pereira, and many leaders at the City of Dallas. The vision of the hub is really to be the heart of our employees, to be that center of collaboration with all city departments, and to really serve as the liaison with the Inspector General, with the City Attorney's Office, with elected and appointed bodies, such as the Ad hoc Committee on General Investigating and Ethics. The hub really has 4 pillars. The first pillar is education. So we want to provide digestible, understandable, and accessible resources for our employees and our residents. The second pillar of the hub is really driving that positive culture shift through collaboration, through trust building, and through being the champion for ERGs. ERGs stand for Employee Resource Groups. At the City of Dallas, we have 6 employee resource groups, and I'm hoping that the number will grow. We have one for Asian American, Latins. We have one for African American, LGBT, veteran, and disability ERG. The third pillar of the hub is to really drive proactive risk management and prevention through emphasizing awareness of and fluency in key areas such as conflict resolution, relationship management, and healthy and positive communication skills. Last but not least, the fourth pillar of the hub will focus on ethics and culture data, having that qualitative and quantitative indicator of our city's progress toward ethics, and really measuring our residents' and the employees' sentiment toward ethics.
Well, listen, before I let Bart answer, I think I buried the lead. You are our first Inspector General. So I definitely appreciate the immenseness of your role, and I think the importance of your division. And so as you kind of tell us what our residents, as well as our employees, can expect, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that because you got really an awesome task. And so, again, go ahead and answer that question. What can our employees and residents expect from you in the division?
Thank you, TC. You can expect an independent watchdog. One thing that absolutely has to happen is the people of Dallas, the residents of Dallas, have to see us as their watchdog. And so you can expect an independent watchdog. The questions I get, probably more than anything else, is who are you guys? What do you do? And so, in answering some of those, I would say if somebody said in 10 words or less, answer, who are you? We're the independent watchdog that makes sure that the city of Dallas does things right. And what do you do? Okay, well, that's usually the next question. We teach and enforce ethics using nationally recognized standards. The minute you say that, you know what the next one is. What standards are you talking about? We've adopted Green Book standards, which are the standards that are used by almost every IG office. Now, the federal offices will use Silver Book standards, but aside from federal IG offices, you have state, county, municipal, and some other levels of IG offices and functions, and they almost all use Green Books when they choose to adopt it. And so we use those standards because they're time-tested, they're fair, and they work. And that's, I guess, it in a nutshell about who we are, what we do, and why we do it that way. And I also think it's real important for people to know how to get in touch with us. You know, we've got a hotline, we've got email, you can send it by fax, we've got a web link, we've got a QR code. Stuff comes through text messages sometimes it's the snail mail. We'll take it any way you want to send it. But that's very important that the people of Dallas know who we are, what we do, and how to get in touch with us.
Well, listen, what initiatives, I think, Baron, share with me some initiatives and programs that the Inspector General Division and the Ethics Hub engage in to strengthen the culture of ethics.
So, TC, thank you for the question. We are very excited to be planning and rolling out multiple programs and initiatives. The first example is the Ethics Roadshow, where we will talk to every single department, introduce ourselves, right, who we are, what we're here to do, and really listen to them, listen to their concerns, listen to their questions, and use that insight to drive our strategy and our execution. The second initiative that we're rolling out is called the Ethics Essay Contest. Our employees work really hard to serve the public, and they deserve to be recognized. And this is how we're going to do that. The Ethics Essay Contest is an opportunity for employees to really highlight their proudest moments in their career serving the public and in overcoming any ethical challenge or dilemmas. And last but not least, educational and recognition programs such as the Ethics Week or the weekly ethics quizzes.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Baron?
It is exciting. I would say communication and training. Now, Hi and I, you made it. You probably do know this. I think you know everything that's going on in the city, but we are joined at the hip. We're working very closely in collaboration on everything, and so communication and training, I would say, from my position. So I'm called Chief Integrity Officer in the Inspector General Division, and training and communication is a huge part of that. So we're working real hard right now, and we're starting with your podcast to get the word out to the public, to the city employees and officials. We've got some other things planned to do that. As another example, we've got a hotline, our TIPS hotline. It doesn't have a name, so we're going to do a contest about that. You need to promote that. Starting the 1st of October, every couple of weeks. It's a horse with no name right now, but we want to give it a name. The other thing we're doing with the risk assessment and the roadshow that Hi's talking about is training, and that really is on a continuum from the most basic orientation, like a plain language guide, new employee orientation, things like that, all the way up to eventually a certification in ethics that a city employee or official could get. Stick that on their resume. I'm certified by the City of Dallas in ethics. The risk assessment is really going to help us with one type of training of two, and then we can move on. We've got the kind of training where people can ask us. You can ask us for any kind of training at any time. We're going to show up and deliver that. But we're also going to identify some kinds of training through our risk assessment and roadshows, and that I would call developmental training. So where we see there's a gap in knowledge or understanding, we are going to develop that through general advisory opinions to the city, like memos, and then just specific training on the issue. So those are two of the things that we're bringing from the Chief Integrity Officer and Integrity Officer Program side of the Inspector General Division.
Well, listen, you would think doing the right thing is easy and just people are going to do it at all the time, regardless of who's watching or if they're alone. So tell me how you think the presence of your programs or your offices is going to improve the culture of ethics in the city of Dallas.
I would say that two words, right? Empowerment and balance. Empowerment in the sense that our employees need psychological safety, right? A network of support to really enable them to speak up, right? To do the right thing and to ask questions, right? Ask any questions. People feel empowered when they have three things: knowledge and skills, a community of support, and transparency. And the Ethics Hub will provide all three so that our employees can have that safe space to speak up and do the right thing and to uphold the 5 core values of the City of Dallas.
Okay. Well, let me say this. Bart, you mentioned earlier kind of how you can make a complaint. Is there any other thing you want to just drill down on, either on the simplicity of making a complaint, the anonymous nature of it? Kind of give me some sense of people's ability to make a complaint, and then kind of what can they expect on the front end and back end of any complaint that they make?
Absolutely. That and combined with what you asked earlier about how's it going to change the culture, it kind of begs the question, why do IG people show up? And I can tell you from being in the fraud industry for 28 years, there's a symbiotic relationship between unethical behavior and public trust. A good word picture for that would be a seesaw that we all played on in elementary school. Every playground I ever went to had one. And when one goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. And when you reach out with your left hand and you push down on unethical behavior, fraud, corruption, the symbiotic relationship just causes public trust to rise. Now, the public will never give you that. If you earn it, they'll give it to you, but it's not going to be given for free. So I would say it's going to make a difference because you're going to see public trust increase when they start to see that, and they have to see it. When people see ethics violations being prosecuted successfully, it's going to hit home. It's not going to be a textbook concept anymore. This is going to be real because I just saw it. And when they begin to see that, you're going to see behavior change. And I think that's important. I think the deterrent effect is important. And I'll be the first to admit, I'll admit right now in any day of the week, you could never measure the deterrent effect of an IG office. But, if you go talk to the FBI and ask them, do surveillance cameras inside banks deter bank robberies? They'll all say, yeah, sure, absolutely. But the bank robbers aren't going to show up and tell you ahead of time that the presence of those surveillance cameras stopped them from doing it. The guys who are thinking today about committing an ethical violation the next 3 months, they'll never line up out in front of City Hall at 8 o'clock Monday to report what they were going to do, but because of your presence, they're going to report it so you can measure the deterrent effect. That'll never happen. But the fact that an IG function is present and operating, I can assure you there is some deterrent effect. And I think that's very important.
Well, and again, you talk about that in terms of, I think I'll try to reframe it. The benefits of following ethics rules, I guess. I think we all write them down, and unless somebody hand them to you when you first show up and make you sign off that you read them, right? And folk just view it as another piece of paperwork in some cases to onboarding, right? So talk to me a little bit about the benefit of those ethics rules. And then I guess, as we often say, give me the business case for ethics.
I'm so glad you asked, TC. So, in my opinion, ethics is not an abstract idea. Right? It's not a checklist. Studies have shown, for example, the leading consulting firm KPMG surveyed 240 chief ethics and compliance officers across 500 Fortune companies, and 73% of them indicated that ethics will be a heightened concern in the coming years. For really real, tangible reasons, because ethics has a business case. Ethics has true business value. Organizations with healthy and strong ethical culture actually outperform their peers by 40% in key areas with real money impact, such as employee retention and attraction, such as revenue growth, job growth, resiliency in times of crisis. And for those reasons, it's extremely important that we put ethics and culture at the forefront of our city.
Bart, you got anything to add to that?
Absolutely. I think the real benefit from an IG perspective is just moral authority. The definition of moral authority would be a parallel congruence between your stated actions and your beliefs. The fifth grade definition of that would be, do you practice what you preach? If you practice what you preach, you will have an invisible influence that can turn things for the better, that can make the city of Dallas a better place. The flip side of that coin is what we all know. Nobody wants to be lectured by hypocrites. And so it's kind of the flip side of that coin. If somebody walked up to me on the sidewalk today and said, hey, I got some advice for you. Taking illegal drugs are bad. You shouldn't do it. I would say, That's great advice. Thank you very much. That's a great reminder. That's something kids should be told. But if somebody came up to me who spent the last 30 years as a drug trafficker, committing violation after felony, and gave me the same piece of advice, I don't want to hear it from him. I don't want to hear it from him because he has no moral authority. What he says is not going to influence me. What's going to influence me are people who practice what they preach. And I'm convinced that many people in the city of Dallas, especially in management positions, are here for the right reason. They want to make a difference. They want to turn their little piece of the world into a better place. And the way that starts is getting up every day and looking in the mirror and saying, do I got this guy in line today? Let me get myself in line before I worry about somebody else. And then getting out there and actually practicing what you preach.
Well, this question, thank you for that answer. This question is directly for you. And so I'm hopeful that you could kind of put it down at a level where, folk can understand it. So how can you help city employees and Dallas residents, many of whom are not lawyers or investigators, understand the Dallas City Ethics Code, Chapter 12A, as we describe it? How can you kind of boil that down and help them understand that?
I would probably try to use a word picture. I've tried over 400 contested trials in the last 28 years, and one thing I've learned when you're speaking to jurors is they love word pictures. When you give them something that they can look at, some metaphor that they're familiar with, it locks on. I would say the Great Wall of China would be a great word picture. We all know what it is. It's 4,163 miles long. It's 25 feet tall. It's 15 to 30 feet thick at every point. And it was built for one purpose, to stop the invading armies from the north getting through. Now, if you paid attention during world history class, unlike me, you can go back and see, well, what happened? China was invaded 3 times in the first 150 years of existence. How could you get through that thing? It's too long to go around. It's too thick to go through. It's too tall to go over. And then you find out what history showed us. They bribed the guards at the gates. That's how they got through. That wall was guarded by a million soldiers at a time. So you get your calculator out and say, okay, 1 million soldiers over 4,163 miles. That's one soldier every 22 feet. So picture this. Here's a wall with one purpose. It's to stop invading armies. You got 1 million guys standing on top of the wall just watching invading armies walk through their gates. And it's crazy to think that's what happened. And so I would say the ethics code is incredibly important. It's just like policies and procedures. It's like strategic plans. It's like audit plans. It's like all these things. Those are all important pieces. They're important bricks in the wall. But the strength and usefulness of all those things is only as good as the ethics of the guards at the gate. And that right there, that one thing right there, is the absolute example of why tone at the top is so important. I mean, you walk around through the city of Dallas, you hear that from the top all the time. That's awesome. That's not normal to hear that. And that tone at the top is incredibly important, because if you don't have people in leadership positions not just talking about it, but modeling it, drawing the line between right and wrong, and making sure that there's some series of consequences associated when somebody steps across that line, that's what it's a great start. That's what's going to make it better.
Got it. Well, listen, that was a great example. It kind of came home for me. And so how do we plan to engage the community and take into account residents' input as we develop and continue to develop, whether it's the Ethics Hub or as you continue, again, to get more settled in the new Inspector General Division and the programs you do? How are you going to engage the community to make sure that they're coming along and understand it and can interact in that system?
Thank you for the question, TC. We are very passionate about community engagement and outreach. And so, as Bart mentioned earlier, we want to walk the talk, right? The city of Dallas aims to establish ourselves as the most ethical city. And to do that, in tandem with operationalizing ethics across all city departments, we are also reaching out to the community to get their input, to get their feedback. It's a continuous feedback loop so that we can build in the voice of our employees, of our community, every step of the way. And Barrett and I actually have been working on a lot of initiatives to really promote ethics and to reach out to our community.
Absolutely. I would say in a phrase, the phone lines are open. So everywhere we can find a phone line where the people in the community can connect with us, we're working right now on opening that up. The hotline is a big part of that. Most of our cases come through that. But also, it's not just about violations. It's also, like Hi's saying, it's about feedback. So you're about to see us really come alive on social media. You're going to see Bart in the media. We've got a Dallas Newsnet article coming out in October to go along with the hotline contest. The ethics, what do we call that in November? Ethics Week.
Ethics Week.
But we may rename it. We're so new at we're renaming things as we're going along. But the point is, phone lines are open. And so everywhere we can discern there's a way for people to get in touch with us, we are on a dog on the hunt for that.
Okay. Well, listen, while you were answering that question, talk to me a little bit about, Baron, what does the Code of Ethics apply? I mean, who does it apply to? And what does it cover? And how can individuals, whether employees or residents, stay in compliance with the Ethics Code?
Great question. So the Code of Ethics, the main three groups that it applies to, the first two anyone could guess, city employees, city officials. So that the city officials part has a definition to it. That includes you, that actually includes Bart, that includes city council members, and then, of course, employees like myself. The one that people may not guess is people doing business with the city. So when we're doing training with new employees, we really emphasize that you need to understand that the people doing business with the city have to come in and under 12A as well. Now, there's another group. It's a little smaller. They have some responsibilities, and those are our lobbyists. But the main point of all of it is getting our job done and doing it the right way. So everybody that's involved in that works for the city or does business with the city, 12A applies.
Okay. That was very succinct. And so, listen, we're going to close out. I got one question. This is probably the easiest question of all questions in the history of anybody doing ethics and compliance. What are the best aspects of your job, and what do you enjoy the most?
I would say the best aspect of our job is interacting with our employees and the public. I personally have a soft spot for our employees. I love our people. I think everyone is super passionate about helping others, and I'm so honored and so happy to be here. Coming from the private sector, that public servant mindset for me is so refreshing and so inspiring, and that's what got me up in the morning. That's what got me all energized and excited.
Okay. Bart?
I would say first off it'd probably be prevention, just getting to be a part of the prevention process. I can tell you from doing this at different levels of government, that prevention process always goes through a process of awareness, understanding, prevention. Those three steps, and you can't skip one. And if you look at the awareness and understanding pieces of it, these are the two gurus right here that are fashioning all this training and creating these ethics hubs and doing all this stuff. But for me, that would be the first answer, is getting to be a part of that, because I do believe prevention is part of the solution. The second best part of my job is clearing innocent people. We don't have anybody on staff that's got it out for anybody. And there is nothing any better than when we look at an allegation, determining, no, that did not happen, clearing that individual and making sure that the confidentiality privileges in the code protect their name and their reputation. Because if it even gets out that somebody was investigated, that can be a negative impact. It can hurt their family, it can hurt their business, it can hurt their social life. And we live in a world of social media. I mean, stuff goes out there in milliseconds now, and all of a sudden it can be dangerous. But clearing innocent people and getting to be a part of that's probably the best part of my job.
Okay. Baron?
Got two things, one from the heart, one from the head. The head one is something people need to know about, but I'm just nerdy enough that I like to write advisory opinions. And what that is if somebody's got a question about a legal issue, can I do it, can I not? They can come to us. It's free. It's confidential. We'll write you up an opinion. Rachel's here. You can't see her, but between Rachel and I, we cover those, and I love doing that. So that's the head part. The heart part is just simply, I use the title of a book. Bart has leads us from the context of that book most people have heard of, Good to Great. I love leading people from good to great. I'm a trainer at heart. Without getting into my resume, I've been about that in different ways all my life. And when the opportunity came to come into this position and to keep doing that for ethics, for my hometown, Dallas, I was all about it. And it's turned out to be a great decision.
Well, listen, I can hear the passion in y'all's voice, particularly around ethics. I think for me, as you know, I arrived here and laid down what I believe our core values are for the city. There were, as I call them, the 4 E's when they were created. Now there are 5. There's empathy, ethics, which is why we're here today, excellence, engagement, and equity. And I think, you know, there's none more important than ethics, and that's been something that I've really ascribed to my entire career. And similar to what Bart said, you know, I'm a believer in if you say it and you commit to doing it, then for me at least, we've got a responsibility to do it the right way. And so again, I want to thank all 3 of you for coming and taking part in this podcast today. I just really want to say thank you for what you do for this city and what your offices mean, I think, to the fabric and the culture, the impact on our employees. So again, thank you, and thank you. So thank you, public, for listening today. I hope you learned a little bit about what we do, particularly in the spirit of excellence as well as ethics. And so thank you for listening to Keeping It Real. If you want to hear more about any other thing going on in the city and you'd like to listen to more episodes, please follow us on the City of Dallas social media and YouTube channels under the video section. Again, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.